Hello, I'll be showing you how to create a simple chat application with Bun, a new-ish JavaScript runtime that I've personally been enjoying. So to do this, I'll be using WebSockets, which are basically a way for the server to push data to the client without the client having to continually request the server to see if there's new events or data that it needs to receive, like continuously hitting an API endpoint. So with WebSockets, you can have the server, whenever there's a new event, send that to all the clients that are listening for this sort of event. So here I have this Bun application, and it's doing a couple things. So first, you can see this bun.serve. This creates a server that has this standard fetch function that you've probably seen from Dino or Cloudflare Workers or many other places, and it listens on port 3000. This just returns a new response, and it uses this bun.file helper to load this index.html page that contains, and then also this is a WebSocket server. But to run this file, all you have to do is bun, run, and then the file you want to run. So in our case, just index.js. It doesn't have any status or messages printed in, it just doesn't print anything out, but that's normal. So now if you go to localhost 3000, reload this, you can see this is our application. And if I actually write, I should really just say website, but whatever. If I just write some text in here, you can see that it shows up. Cool thing is, let's say I create another window and then I go to the address. You can see that this user pops up immediately and get the old messages. And I can write something in this, and the other user gets it too. So let's see how I actually implemented this. First thing to notice is this messages and users variables. So this messages stores all the messages, users stores all the currently connected users. Then we do the normal bun.serve listing on port 4000. And then for the fetch, when HTTP requests come in, we upgrade them saying this isn't basically a normal HTTP request. So we'll use a WebSocket instead. And we set this data that can later then be used on the WebSocket. You could imagine right here, you could implement some sort of authentication that checks a cookie and denies or accepts the person in. In my case, I just set a random username. Then there's this WebSocket parameter. It has several things like the open function, the message function, and the close function. So open runs whenever a new client connects. So a new client connects, we want to push the WS WebSocket.data.username that we get from this fetch request to the users. Then we want to tell the server that the client wants to subscribe on this chat channel. So what this means is there'll be a bunch of clients that want to listen in on this channel. Then let's say one of the clients sends a message in that channel. Well, then all of those clients will get that message. If you don't do it this way and you just do WebSocket send on the client or WebSocket send on the server, then only that particular client will receive those messages. But with the channel, you can do WebSocket.publish, the channel name, and then the message. Now with that, all of the clients connected get that message. So in our case, we want to say, hey, to all of the clients currently connected, a new user has been connected with this username. Now you'll notice that I'm using JSON.stringify. This is because messages are only strings. So we have to take this JavaScript object and turn it into a string. Then on the client end, we can parse the various messages. Like in this case, we'll parse it and see that this is a type of users add or users set or messages set. Then on the server receiving end, so when the client sends us a message, then we'll want to parse that message, since it's a string, into a JavaScript object, set the username on that message, and then store the message. Then since we've received a new message, we want to tell all the clients currently connected, hey, we've got this new message. So for that case, we publish this new event saying ws.publish in the chat channel and stringify this type message add with the new message. Now when the client closes, we want to remove the user from the users variable. This should really just be like a slice on the user's variable. That'd probably be more efficient than doing a filter, but this is just simpler. So here, like I said, we filter on the users and remove the username that matches the WebSocket.data.username, basically the client that is currently being removed, that is being closed. So we want to remove that from the usernames list. Then we publish to all those clients saying, hey, this user has been removed, has left the channel, basically. The client can then know, if we look here, like let's say I exit out of this tab, you can see this user dropped off. Now in the index.html page, I just have some simple styling. Like if we look at this, you can see that I've set this chat window to have a display flex. So the messages and the users are on the same row, you can kind of think of. Then in the messages, I said the flex space is 70%, so take up 70% of the room. On the users, I set a border left to create this divide. And then I added a margin to the form and said, hey, the input should take up 100% and the margin top should be 5 pixels to give it a little bit of space for the button. The other thing you've probably noticed was this overflow scroll. That way, if we get a bunch of messages, then it will start scrolling down like this. So that's what all that styling does. You can see here the body HTML, but this is the interesting part. So I use the WebSocket API, the WebSocket Web API. So if you just Google WebSocket Web API, I should really say brave it, and you visit MDN, has pretty good explanation of all of the parameters and methods on it. So there's these various helpers like add message, set message, add user, move user, set users, and all that sort of stuff. But first, we want to do a socket.add event listener and listen for new messages. So you get a new message in, then parse that string that we get from the event, that'll be a message event, get the message event.data, so the actual message content, and then parse that into a JavaScript object. Then on the object, like you saw on the server, we set that type. So if it's a message add, then call the add message function. Messages set, call the set messages function, and so on. And each of these will basically, like for the add message, we want to create an element that will then contain the text of the message. Append to that element a new text node containing the username and text. Then right here you can see we just append it to the messages container, then scroll to the bottom with scroll to 0 and then the container height. The other one was kind of interesting. That was add user. So set the ID to the username. Then when removing the username, we can just do get element by ID, the username, and then set the outer HTML, which will basically be the content of that ID to be nothing. So that'll remove it. Then for the other ones like set users, we just clear it and then loop through each of the usernames and call add user. Finally, we have this event listener on the form that listens for submit events. Call prevent default because by default a form will send a new request. It'll basically reload the page. So we want to prevent that default action with this and then get the input from the event.target. That'll be the target of this event. So in that case, that'll be the form. And then set the text, stringify it, and send it to the socket with socket.send. Then just clear the input. So I think that should give you a pretty good start with using WebSockets with Bun. I've heard it is quite fast. Like right here, messages per second, 70,000 versus 100,000 on Node. I haven't done those tests myself, but big if true. Thank you for watching.